is a moment about 20 minutes into Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning where I thought, watching it in the theater, I thought, that right there, that is exactly what makes these movies so special, what makes me love them so much. And it's, well, the thing that I love, the thing that makes them so special is the set pieces, is the incredible stunt work, the incredibly elaborate, huge in scope action set pieces. And you can watch those set pieces and experience them and appreciate them just as pure cinema and just to appreciate the craft. But to the reason that they work in context of movies, in the context of individual movies that you're watching, and the reason you feel them, like really feel them in your stomach, is because these movies always find moments to ground the characters as real people, because they always behave exactly as you expect them to behave. They behave exactly the way you would think these people would, because you understand who these people are so well. And spoiler alert for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I mean, this is the mildest of spoilers, nothing major. Okay, so it's 20 minutes into the movie. Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt and Hayley Atwell as Grace. They are captured by some bad guys and taken into a sort of room that I can only describe it as a torture dungeon. And Atwell's character, Grace, her deal in this movie and in the previous movie is she's new to this job and she's learning, she's experiencing this world, this insane world for the first time. And we are in a way seeing everything that Tom Cruise goes through, which we take it all for granted. We're kind of supposed to be seeing it through her eyes and see how crazy this all is and feel what she feels. So we get all these shots in the torture dungeon of these weapons, of these instruments and implements of torture laid out on a table. And it suggests a level of violence and horror, basically, that this movie series has never invoked, but suddenly it's suggested, it's on the table. And so Ethan now warns Grace, like, okay, it's coming, but remember, keep telling yourself it's only pain. It's only pain. Just keep telling yourself it's only pain. But then, Grace and Ethan, they're able to overpower the bad guys. They're able to get out of it against all odds. They're able to defeat them. But the sequence ends with the camera locked on Grace, and she is watching Ethan Hunt, who again is off screen, using the torture like mallet on the bad guy off camera. We hear it. We can imagine and see the look of shock on her face, a level of violence and gore that, again, is not something we've seen in this series before. But once Ethan has killed his adversary, now that he and Grace are secure and safe, he runs over to her, runs into the frame, and he goes up to Grace and he just says, "Are you okay?" And like most Hollywood blockbusters would undercut this moment with humor. Like Grace would be like, "Geez, Ethan, you think you went a little too far?" Or like, "You're sure you got him?" Something like that. Some Joss Whedon-y bullshit, some "so that happened" remark that would instantly diminish, instantly subvert and undercut the tension and the sincerity of the moment. The Marvel movies are the most guilty of this. Bucky Barnes gives Sam Wilson a big like, "Oh, it'll be okay. You're the best, fella," like speech in that Captain America movie that came out this year. And it's a big heartfelt speech, inspiring speech. And then Sam's like, "Did your speech writers tell you to say that?" Womp womp. It just betrays a total lack of confidence from the filmmakers in the story that they are telling. But the Mission Impossible movies are pure confidence. And the confidence is what sells you on the danger of everything that you're watching. Ethan asks Grace if she's okay because he's legitimately worried she's not okay. We know Ethan Hunt's not going to die, but 8 movies in, we always feel like he could die. It always feels like anybody and everybody in these movies could die at any moment because the movies convincingly sell you on the urgency and the pure primal danger that they're all in all the time. And the confidence of the movies is in not trying to subvert the danger, not trying to undercut it with humor. But the movies do have humor, but the humor, like in this very exchange, "Are you okay, Hayley Atwell?" Like there's humor that comes from us seeing the look on her face, Hayley Atwell's face, at her discovery of what this man who she's now attached her safety and life to, seeing what he is capable of. The humor, it's coming from characters who are extremely well defined, who we understand very well and who are very strongly portrayed. And the humor is, of course, that's what Grace would do. Of course, that's what Benji would do. Of course, that's what Ethan would say. It's not from characters behaving out of characters, from characters behaving exactly in character. And one of my favorite movie moments in the entire series that's like this, it's in Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. And it's right after a very long stretch of the movie where there's a lot of danger and daring do. Ethan and Benji, they first have to sneak into a dangerous facility and get this disc. They get the disc and then they're pursued and there's a long car chase and everything. And they manage to steal the disc. And so Ethan and Benji, they go regroup. They meet up with Luther and with Jeremy Renner. And Ethan just says to Simon Pegg, to Benji, he's like, Benji,
please tell me you made a copy of that disc.
And Simon Pegg, who's so wonderful right here, he goes, Ethan. And it's like everything you understand about movies makes you think he is going to say like, I'm sorry, no, because it's like, yeah, that's the law of movies. And instead he says,
of course I made a copy.
Because, like, of course, Benji would do that. And it's just such a lovely moment that speaks to who these people are, what we understand about them, what they understand about each other, and why that makes them love each other. I did not love Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 when I saw it. It really left a bad taste in my mouth. There's a bunch of reasons for this, but the biggest one is that Rebecca Ferguson's character, Ilsa, a character I really loved, I was very disappointed that she was killed off. And it wasn't just like, yeah, obviously characters can die, but I felt like her presence more than anything was so needed in these movies. When Mission Impossible Fallout ends with Benji, Luther, Ilsa, and Ethan together, you feel like, yes, this is the core four. This is what this is all really about. And her dynamic with Ethan Hunt as the only person who can out badass Ethan Hunt, the only person more competent than him, is such an interesting wrinkle to throw into this series. And you can see her relationship with Ethan growing in this very interesting way where they realize how much, Spider-Man meme, you are me, pointing at each other, that they are, and what that makes them feel about themselves and about each other, and how kind of lost they feel, but suddenly seen by another. It was just such an interesting thing to watch. She is replaced, for all intents and purposes, by Hayley Atwell as Grace. And I think Atwell is terrific in these two movies. And the movies themselves are very interested in the dynamic between her and Tom Cruise as this mentor-mentee relationship. And again, as this vector through which we can experience all the crazy shit that Ethan Hunt does. But I confess, I just find that less interesting than I do the dynamic with Ilsa. I care less about what would it actually be like to join the impossible mission force. Ilsa's dynamic with Ethan, where she's the only person in the series who is as capable of him, their relationship is interesting for that reason. And then there's this metatextual element where Tom Cruise, at least recently, at least maybe in the 21st century, seems incapable of having romantic or sexual chemistry with a woman, but with Rebecca Ferguson in these movies, and then also I think with Emily Blunt in Edge of Tomorrow, he has not so much like romantic or sexual chemistry, but like a chemistry of solidarity that almost transcends romantic or sexual attraction. And this relationship of equals, I just find so much more interesting and satisfying than I do his relationship with Atwell, which is more of, it's a paternal relationship. It's a relationship of a protector. I want to take care of you. And that is something that I've just seen way more of. There's other reasons I didn't like Dead Reckoning that much. Again, it's better than most Hollywood blockbusters, but it felt like so much of a part one. It felt like so much setup. We're watching a setup, and now that we have the payoff, and I like the payoff, I'm grateful for the setup. Mostly. There are things that I am glad to have waited 2 movies to see. Most importantly is the sunken submarine, the Sevastopol. So the Sevastopol has been a focus of discussion for 4.5 hours over 2 movies by the time Ethan Hunt finally arrives at it in this extended sequence that I think might be the very best in the entire franchise. It's everything that's wonderful about this franchise. It's something that we haven't seen before. It's at the same time grounded, but huge feeling, sneaking, infiltrating a sunken and abandoned and crashed submarine deep, way too deep in the ocean. And here Macquarie does something so interesting, the way that he shoots this sequence and the way that it plays like a horror movie. That is a swerve for Mission Impossible movies. You are filled with dread as you approach the Sevastopol. The way it's shot makes you feel like that. And the way that the score is used. The score has like these like Gregorian chants. I mean, honestly, I was like, is this a reference to Eyes Wide Shut? Tom Cruise, the last time he was this scared was when he was wandering around that sex party in Eyes Wide Shut. But yeah, you can see all these wide shots of the submarine, and you know how deep they are in the ocean and how dangerous that is and how scary that is. And then you see this sub is partially hanging off of a huge cliff. And the second you see that, you know that sub's going off that cliff. Obviously, that's what's going to happen. And knowing that doesn't ruin it. That makes it so much more effective because it fills you with the dread of knowing what's coming. As Tom Cruise goes through the sunken ship, McQuarrie does what he does so well with his action sequences, which is just very simple, back to basics, back to like 1920s Buster Keaton action filmmaking, cause and effect. Because Ethan Hunt does this other thing happens, and now Ethan has to deal with that. Because Ethan is moving through the sub, and the sub is filling with compartments of water or depressurizing compartments, whatever. The submarine, which has been still and dormant for a decade, suddenly it's moving. Now it's tumbling, and inside the tub, inside the sub, the water now is moving around. The machinery is moving around, and these torpedoes are moving around too, and Ethan has to dodge them and work his way around them and deal with the implications of that. I don't want to build up this sequence too much, but like this sequence is why I love movies. This sequence is why movies are the best form of art. Action cinema is cinema at its purest. This is pure cinema right here. All right. Now, having said all of that, the movie's trying to spin so many plates and it doesn't land all of it successfully or doesn't catch the plates, whatever the metaphor is. So there's a surprising amount of fan service in this movie. There's way more callbacks to earlier movies. Literal footage from earlier movies plays through a lot of this movie. Now, part of the reason for that is to make you understand that whenever you see Ethan Hunt, you are seeing somebody who has lived through all of this. That is all part of his story. He carries with him the weight of all that has happened to him. This all explains why he is the way he is. Shea Whigham's character reveals that his real name is actually Jim Phelps Jr. He is the son of Jim Phelps Sr., John Voight's character from the first Mission Impossible movie. And this is the one where I really felt like this seems like almost an apology. For in 1996, it actually was a scandal, sort of, that for fans of the Mission Impossible TV series, Jim Phelps was the hero of that series, the main character of that series, played by Peter Graves, and they have John Voight playing him, but then have the surprise reveal that he's actually the bad guy. And this is like the movie apologizing, being like, actually, Jim Phelps is Shea Whigham, not John Voight. This is the good Jim Phelps, not the bad one. And then there's the reveal of the rabbit's foot, what the rabbit's foot really was from Mission Impossible 3. And it's like, it's the entity or whatever. And ironically, this feels so J.J. Abrams. The movie, though, to its credit, avoids the cheap pop of having actors from earlier movies appear. Like, there's no moment where somebody's like, ooh, we need to steal a jewel. Where are we going to find a jewel thief? And Tom Cruise is like, I know just the person. And then we cut to Tendiwe Newton. There's nothing like that. I'm glad that Jeremy Renner isn't in this movie and that he has not returned to the series. I think he's great in those two movies, but I feel more strongly about his character than I do these new additions to the team, Theo and Paris. But if you have Jeremy Renner, you need to have the space to give him stuff to do to make it worth his while, to make it worth that character's while. Instead, in the end of this movie, we are just focusing on Ethan, on Benji, and on Grace, and the supporting members of the team are literally there to play support. And you can't have somebody like Jeremy Renner doing that. Instead, the surprise return here is Rolf Saxon, who plays Bill Dunlow, the CIA analyst from the first Mission Impossible from 1996, whose life was ruined when Ethan Hunt gave him diarrhea and got him transferred to Alaska. And well, now we see what that has meant. The consequences, the fallout of all Ethan Hunt's decisions is this guy went to Alaska, where he ended up living a delightful life. He has lived a full life off screen, and now we see him as a fully formed character who is involved in the rest of the movie and has unique attributes and skills, and Saxon plays him very wonderfully. And I was really surprised and kind of moved at this kind of character who's almost played like a joke in the first movie, gets to have this arc. For such a huge movie, for such a long movie, McQuarrie is so good at letting moments with these peripheral characters and peripheral new characters, letting them breathe so that they feel real and they feel like they have weight. So like when we check in at the end of the movie, after Ethan Hunt has saved the world, we check in with Tramell Tillman and with Hannah Waddingham, and these characters who we've only spent a little bit of time with them. Ethan Hunt has only spent a little bit of time with them, but we see it on their faces when they learned what he has done, and their interactions and encounters with Ethan Hunt has transformed who they are. And it's very powerful. Okay. Now, finally, the entity, the AI algorithm that is the big bad that this whole movie franchise has been leading up to. And the entity also has its human avatar in the form of Gabriel, played by Esai Morales. Now, in a series of great villains, I think Gabriel is just kind of blah. He is neither here nor there, but I really disliked the entity in Dead Reckoning and thought it was coming on too strong as this metatextual commentary on, well, like how all Tom Cruise movies now, Top Gun Maverick and these, have to be a commentary on Tom Cruise as the last holdout, the last movie star, the last one who's doing things the old-fashioned way, doing stunts, practical effects, insisting on movies being big and being made for the big screen, going against this newfangled technology that wants to eliminate the human element from movies. It played better for me in this newer movie because here I am reading it less as a commentary on movies and more as a commentary on everything, because the world that we live in, it's run by the entity. It's not the literal entity. It's not a literal algorithm. It's just called capitalism. We don't have to call it the entity. It's just a system that removes human agency, removes blame, removes human agency, just treats humans as consumers and assets to be moved around, self-perpetuating, self-contained, self-moving system that can't be defeated. We just accept that's the world the way it is. So there's this great moment from the 1973 Charlton Heston sci-fi film Soylent Green, where Charlton Heston learns the famous secret of the movie, Soylent Green is people. And Soylent Green is this food that comes in bar form that is being sold to a poor and overpopulated world, a world where resources are scarce, where plants and animals are dying. Food is scarce, and spoiler alert, the Soylent Green bars are actually made of people. When people die, they harvest them and turn them into Soylent Green bars. Charlton Heston learns this shocking truth, sneaks into this factory where they make the Soylent Green, and it's a great sequence where like the factory is totally empty. The machines are running, the assembly line is running, but there's no people anywhere. It's so effective because of that. Like this machinery is all running by automation. It's like an algorithm. It's 1973. They wouldn't have said algorithm, but that's effectively what it is. These machines, there's no evil person making the decision to do this. It's just like, that's what the machine does. So Ethan Hunt here, I see him going up against the entity in this final movie. It's like Tom Cruise's sad plea of like, no, in this world that wants to dehumanize us, that wants to make us feel alienated from each other and feel like we need to just surrender to the machinery. No, human beings matter. People matter. They need to be taken care of. We don't need to just surrender our agency, our freedom, our lives to an inhuman algorithmic system. But the sadness is our knowledge that, yeah, we may love this movie. We may love Top Gun Maverick, but these movies are going away. They're not coming back. And we're not stopping this system. We're not stopping the algorithm. Okay, one final thing. This is the biggest spoiler of all. Luther Stickle, Ving Rhames, he dies. He's dead. But he leaves this recorded message for Ethan to find once Ethan has saved the world using Luther's entity killing virus on a USB stick or whatever it is. But it's this beautiful message that is a message of gratitude from Ethan, and we could see like from Ving Rhames, like these actors who have been working together for 30 years, a message of gratitude about all the time that they've shared together. And it's smart for McQuarrie to acknowledge that if this is the last Mission Impossible movie, then we need to ground it in this emotional core, and the most emotional core we can find is the relationship between these two characters. But okay, so we first hear Luther's voice after Ethan has survived a drop from a plane that should have killed him, by all accounts should have killed him, and it's almost shot, and we hear a literal angel. Like there was like 5 seconds where I thought, oh my God, are we seeing Ethan Hunt in heaven? Like, that's crazy. And that's not bad. That's great. It's great that the movie could make me think that we are actually going to see Mission Impossible heaven. And now Ethan is dead. Finally, he has died. And we see him reunited. Oh, there's Luther Stickle. And there's Ilsa. There's Ilsa Faust. Oh, and is that Emilio Estevez? Wow. Again, it's great that I thought that was a possibility. But of course, no, that's not. No, Ethan's still alive. He's always going to be alive. This is just thematic, a metaphor. He has gone to heaven because he got to hear from his best friend one more time. Although really, guys, if you think about it, I think you could actually say Ethan did not survive. He actually died, and the rest of the movie is just like the DMT hitting his brain as he dies, and he didn't save the world, you know? It's like crazy if you think about it. But yeah, let me know what you think about it, about that theory, and I mean whatever else.